Welcome back to the last of our reflections on our 20th anniversary celebrations. A lot of our emphasis now in Rwanda is towards prevention, such as Rwanda Orgwejo, which is a new project designed to support access to education, prevent children going onto the streets before they become street children. As well as prevention, we're looking a lot at project exit strategies, like the School Leavers Development Programme, designed to help street children back into self-sustainable living, or income generation projects or training such as adult literacy, or Africa Hope Initiative's provision of interest-free loans to ex-prostitutes for business startups. That's a pilot project that we're doing, led by Rugabiri Theophil, that we know through the SIMS work, the Pastors Training. So we continue to have partnerships with Solace Ministries, with Good News International, with the Living Church, and with Comfort Rwanda, and we love our partners so much, and if you're watching, we love you. Of course, our big project for the 20th anniversary is the Comfort Transformation Centre that you can see on the slide, and we really hope that will be a fantastic outcome to this year's celebrations. In Congo, the need is still huge, the suffering still very acute. Comfort Congo now run, we understand, 126 schools, yes, and we urgently need more teacher sponsors and more support for those schools. The hospital appears now to be properly integrated into the local healthcare system. It's functioning well, with equipment and extra buildings being added, although there are still many, many needs. The child soldiers have made great progress and are now beginning to look towards independent, self-sustainable living. We also continue with other projects among the rape survivors, the pygmies, and the displaced people. But it does pain me to keep coming across people in desperate need and not to be able to respond in line with our call and our vision. And so although we've grown to some extent to be able to meet some of those needs, we haven't developed enough to meet all the needs that are there. One of our key verses is Isaiah 62:6-7, and it talks about giving God no rest and taking no rest for ourselves until God moves and God acts on our behalf. And I have a tray at home that says the words, "You gave us your ears and you heard our cry." And people are crying out so much for help, and we want to be the hands that God uses to reach those people. It's obviously easier for myself to carry that within me because I'm there in Congo and different places so often. But somehow the reality of orphanhood, of widowhood, of extreme poverty, of trauma, of homelessness, of hopelessness, of helplessness, of hunger, exclusion from education and healthcare, the pain and the tragedy that so many people in our world experience today, that has to live in our hearts day by day so that we never become complacent as individuals or as a charity. We never become weary, we never become lazy. We never even become satisfied with what we've done. When we were first in Burundi, we went onto the streets one night to see the children living at the roadsides and the drains. And as those children came out and met us, one of them said, "Have you come to help us?" And I don't think that child on the street has yet been helped. I don't think that child is in one of our projects. And that haunts me because children are going to sleep tonight in drains in Bujumbura while my head's on a soft pillow and wrapped in a comfortable downy. And so all that says to us is that the work of Comfort International is only just beginning. I cannot overemphasize the gratitude and the debt that we owe to our supporters and our volunteers, as well as our staff. Pedro Alvim pushed us forward in leaps and bounds when he came on board, and Eddie and Neil and Halcyon, as well as the shop staff, have shown a huge commitment to developing the work as our staff. And our volunteers are the lifeblood of the charity, and their sacrifice of time and energy and money is deeply moving. It's humbling, and it's also very enabling to us as a charity. We're still in need of more help, so if you have free time that you can give to us, then please do, because we do need you. And we're also very conscious of the deep commitment of our supporters and the financial help that they give. Thanks are totally inadequate, but we trust that the knowledge that the funds you've sweated and baked for, the money you've saved and then given, the bank accounts you've dug into and used for Comfort International, the sponsorship, the foundation making you've faithfully done over many, many years, that the way that changes lives and communities is in itself a satisfactory reward. There are multitudes of testimonies which tell us that what you have done has lifted people out of the darkness of hopelessness and given them a life worth living. Child soldiers now working as doctors and ambulance drivers. Genocide survivors now laughing and smiling. Street kids with jobs and £1,000 in the bank. Broken hearts mended. The sick and wounded lives saved. Children skipping their way to school. That is the right destiny for these people, and I think it's a good destiny for the money that you've given and that we work for. So we continue to send 100% of our designated gifts, and at least 90%, probably at the moment around 95% of non-designated gifts go directly to the projects. And we are acutely aware of the sacrifices people make to give to the charity, and we want to steward that as well as we can. There's always a tension between minimising admin and staffing and maximising our fundraising and publicity and effectiveness. And so continue to pray for us that we get that balance right. I want to also say something about Izzy. On the last page of my notebook, I'd written, I would love to be in your arms and weep for those people. When I got home from Rwanda, I would never be the same again. And as Izzy saw me coming off the plane, she knew that, and she has indeed embraced that changed man and been my constant support and help, and is everything that I could ask for. And without her, Comfort International would not be here. What the future holds is in God's hands. Neil and Halcyon are working with us to do their best to work that out at this end of the charity. But the need for us is to keep our vision growing, and that need is very, very clear. Inroads have been made in some areas of extreme poverty in the world and the hopelessness and the pain that goes with that. But projections indicate that the outlook for sub-Saharan African children is that 40% will be living in extreme poverty by 2030, just 11 years away. By which time it's projected that 87% of the world's extreme poor will live in sub-Saharan Africa. That affects everything from neonatal mortality to malnutrition to education and so on. So that we don't have a great strategy to go to this country and that country and our 5-year and our 10-year plans to do this project and that one. That may be a weakness, but it's also a strength that allows us to respond to three things: the cry of the needy, the leading of God, and the availability of partners of integrity. There is, of course, a danger that we spread ourselves too thin. The answer to that is to encourage you to keep spreading the word about the charity and the work we are doing, and also focusing particularly on opportunities where there is the possibility of a new support base. So wherever we find a need and we can push a door that could possibly find resources to help, then we will. Being careful that new opportunities are not dependent on diverting resources from our present priorities. Jesus and his disciples and many other of God's servants in the Bible were consistent risk takers. Whether that was Esther pleading for the lives of her people before a king with the power of life and death, whether that was Peter stepping out of the boat into an impossible challenge, whether it was Stephen risking and losing his life to preach to the scribes and the elders, whether it was Barnabas risking the reputation and welfare of the church by vouching for who would become the Apostle Paul, or Jesus risking everything by coming to earth in the first place. The question has always been, what does God require of us? Where is God leading us? So this is our mission. Our mission is to help rebuild lives devastated by poverty, genocide and conflict in the nations of the world. Maybe one day we will not be needed, but today there are children and orphans and widows, rape survivors, child soldiers, poverty, crippled parents watching their children go hungry, and sick whose cry for help is not answered and whose future is not yet on the horizon. And we will continue to do all that we can to reach those people. God bless you. Thank you for listening, and thank you for all your help.